Moderna sues Pfizer for COVID-19 vaccine patent infringement. Saudi Red Crescent helps 7 Guantanamo detainees communicate with their families. At least 30 killed and hundreds injured in Iraq clashes between pro-Iran and anti-Iran Shias. Bangladesh halts construction of elevated bus line following deadly collapse. Rohingya welcome UK's decision to intervene in genocide case against Burma. Melting of Greenland ice sheet poised to trigger almost 1 foot of sea level rise. From our Chicago studios, this is a Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Samana, Siddiqui. Our top story tonight. On Friday, American pharmaceutical giant Moderna filed a lawsuit in the U.S. and Germany against Pfizer and BioNTech for patent infringement. Moderna claims the two companies used its patented mRNA technology in COVID-19 vaccines without permission. Moderna alleges it had more than a decade of research on mRNA in coronaviruses before the pandemic. It obtained various patents for its technology from 2011 to 2016. Once the pandemic hit, Moderna says it quickly developed a COVID-19 vaccine based on its existing technology. It also alleges that Pfizer and BioNTech had no such technology before 2020. Tony Ornato, the Secret Service's assistant director, is leaving the agency, retiring after 25 years of service. At the time of the January 6, 2021 riot, Ornato was serving as former President Donald Trump's deputy chief of staff. He came into the spotlight during testimony by former White House aide Cassidy Hutchinson. Hutchinson testified that Ornato told her Trump was irate when a Secret Service special agent told the former president he could not go to the Capitol that day. She also testified that Trump lunged at his security detail and toward the steering wheel of the presidential vehicle, demanding to head to Capitol Hill. On Friday, federal prosecutors in New Mexico charged Herman Levun Wilson for providing material support to ISIS. Wilson is also accused of attempting to obstruct, influence, and impede an official proceeding in the fall of 2020. A federal grand jury indicted Wilson on August 23rd. The indictment alleges Wilson attempted to establish a New Mexico Islamic State center that was designed to provide interested individuals with ISIS ideology and tactical training. The center was also meant to serve as a safe haven for individuals planning to fight and travel for ISIS in the U.S. and internationally, documents show. Augsburg University in Minneapolis appointed Najeeba Saeed as the inaugural El-Hibri Endowed Chair and Executive Director of Interfaith earlier this month. She will serve as a national ambassador for the interfaith movement and partner with campus leaders as a change agent for interreligious learning and living. Saeed will also serve as a faculty advisor for Augsburg's interfaith scholars. University President Paul Pribenow said Saeed is an experienced mediator, a publicly engaged scholar, a passionate educator, and a seasoned organizational leader. He said her appointment is a crucial step forward in the university's commitment to enhancing interfaith leadership on campus and nationally. On Sunday, the Saudi Red Crescent Authority said it organized video calls between 7 Saudi detainees at Guantanamo Bay and their families this month. The group said the initiative was a humanitarian step to help restore family links. It said the detainees spoke with 50 of their family members in Riyadh, Mecca, Medina, and Jeddah. The U.S. has detained more than 800 people in the military prison at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, since the September 11, 2001 attacks. Nearly 39 people are still detained there. Their ages range between 37 and 71 years old. Bangladesh's government has ordered a halt to the construction of an elevated bus line due to recent deadly incidents. Work has been put on hold until the Chinese contractor can ensure safety on the project. A section of the rapid bus line recently collapsed, killing 5 people earlier this month. On August 15th, a girder being installed for the elevated transit line fell and flattened a car driving below in a suburb of the capital, Dhaka. 5 members of a family were killed. A newlywed couple also suffered serious injuries from the incident, which took place along the Dhaka-Mymensingh National Highway, one of the country's busiest roads. Rohingya refugees welcome the UK's decision to intervene in their genocide case. More details after the break, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back after these messages.
A free 3-minute online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to start boosting your retirement savings today.
I am what hunger looks like in America. If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Despite the development of a COVID-19 vaccine, millions around the world will not have access. We need a vaccine that's free and available to everyone, everywhere. It's time for a people's vaccine.
Assalamu alaikum! Open up your eyes.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, it's your brother Zain Beaker from South Africa. One of the first educational programs ever produced for Muslim children was the ever-popular Adam's World series. The colorful and comical Muslim puppets stole the heart of a generation. Sound Vision will be releasing brand new episodes of Adam's World with the launch of a Adam's World app. Subscribers will enjoy new Adam's World episodes as they are released, as well as all the classic episodes of Adam's World. So visit adamsworldapp.com now to learn more, subscribe, and enjoy new adventures of Adam and his friends. And let's keep helping tomorrow's Muslims today. Assalamu alaikum.
It's Adam's World. Believe me, there's a lot to see. Bismillah. Let's explore.
To stop this genocide, we need your help.
Welcome back. Rohingya refugees living in Bangladesh lauded the UK's decision to intervene in their case against Burma before the International Court of Justice. The UK government's move has given the persecuted Rohingya Muslims renewed hope for their safe return to their homeland. The stateless people, over a million of whom live in sprawling refugee camps in Bangladesh's Cox's Bazar district, recently marked the 5th Genocide Remembrance Day last Thursday. On July 22nd, the International Court of Justice rejected Burma's preliminary objections to Gambia's case filed in November 2019. The case, filed under the International Genocide Convention, alleges genocide against ethnic Rohingya in Rakhine State. It focuses on Burma's military operations launched in October 2016 and August 2017. On Friday, a Palestinian NGO said a growing standoff between Israeli prison officials and Palestinian detainees is causing extreme tension. Palestinian prisoners in Israeli jails kicked off a series of protests this week against persistent mistreatment. Israeli authorities have responded with harsher steps, including doubled isolation and removal of electrical devices from jail cells, the Palestinian Prisoner Society said. Additional personnel have also been called in at different prisons, the group said. Palestinians retaliated by disbanding their different factions in Israeli jails from Sunday. The move has forced prison officials to deal with each detainee separately. Prisoners have refused to take part in daily security checks, return their meals, and organize sit-ins in prison yards. Adenikan Ayomide was attending the University of Abuja in Nigeria when its lecturers went on strike in February. The 27-year-old undergraduate student took a job as a taxi driver to pay bills during the 6-month strike by the Academic Staff Union of Universities. University strikes are common in Nigeria. The African nation has more than 100 public universities and an estimated 2.5 million students, according to Nigeria's National Universities Commission. There have been at least 15 strikes recorded at Nigerian universities since 2000. The latest is hitting harder on the education sector, which is struggling to recover from a COVID-19 pandemic lockdown. An earlier strike lasted for most of 2020. Climate change driven by fossil fuels has already caused so much ice melt in Greenland that sea levels will surge by nearly a foot in the coming decades. Research published Monday in Nature Climate Change underscores the need to rapidly transform virtually all aspects of the global political economy. The Greenland ice sheet is set to lose 110 trillion tons of ice that will cause almost a foot in global sea level rise. The study's authors don't specify a time frame for the melting, but it is expected to happen between now and 2100. If the world halted planet heating pollution today, Greenland's ice sheet would lose 3.3% of its mass in the coming decades, scientists warn. To prevent even worse outcomes, they urge immediate climate action. The United Nations and Pakistan are appealing for $160 million in emergency funding for nearly 500,000 people displaced by record-breaking floods. The historic disaster has killed more than 1,100 people since mid-June. Large areas remain underwater and more than 33 million people, 1 in 7 Pakistanis, have been affected. In flooded areas, 90% of crops have been lost. Rescuers have been evacuating stranded people to safer ground. Initial government estimates show the devastation has cost $10 billion in damages to the economy. Iraq's militias are clashing in the capital Baghdad and elsewhere across the country as tensions flare relating to neighboring Iran's influence in the country. At least 30 people have been killed and hundreds have been wounded. The battles are centered mainly in Baghdad's Green Zone. The clashes were sparked by the resignation of influential Shia anti-Iran cleric Muqtada as-Sadr. Sadr's political bloc performed strongly in elections 10 months ago, while rival Iran-backed Shia blocs performed poorly. But a standoff has since failed to produce a coalition that could form a government in the 329-seat parliament. Coming up next after the break is our in-depth analysis segment, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back after these messages.
A free 3-minute online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to start boosting your retirement savings today. A free 3-minute online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to start boosting your retirement savings today.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes.
I am what hunger looks like in America. I am an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for the last day of school. Because this may be the last time I'll have lunch. Till September.
I am a single father of 2 who works 3 part-time jobs, and that's still not enough to put food on the table.
I was created by artificial intelligence from faces of the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger.
Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
Despite the development of a COVID-19 vaccine, millions around the world will not have access. We need a vaccine that's free and available to everyone, everywhere. It's time for a people's vaccine.
Dad, they took over my bedroom. Come on, come on. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. Dad! You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
We are Justice for All. Headquartered in the heart of downtown Chicago, Justice for All is a global humanitarian initiative dedicated to raising awareness for human rights concerns impacting vulnerable minority groups. Our diverse team of staff and volunteers, led by Imam Malik Mujahid, work tirelessly to help Justice for All achieve their goals. We promote policies that protect religious freedom, address the root causes of mass displacement, and recognize the plight of refugees and forced migrants. Together, we can continue to stand up for justice. Justice for all.
Welcome back. To discuss President Biden's plan to forgive student debt and the political reaction to this decision, let's go to Imam Abdul Malik Mujahid. Over to you, Imam Mujahid.
Thank you, Samana. President Biden says in his announcement about the student debt relief that 20 million borrowers will have no debt left, and benefits go in total to 43 million borrowers. Is that all true? To discuss all of this with us is Professor Sam Workman. Welcome to Muslim Network TV.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Professor Workman is Director of Institute for Policy Research and Public Affairs at West Virginia University. So what is the President Biden's total announcement in this regard?
Well, I think the plan has sort of three ideas. The first is that you fix the public student loan program. The second is you extend the moratorium on payments until the end of the year, December 31st. And then finally, capping repayment at 5% of discretionary spending, which cuts it in half. It used to be 10%. And in addition to that, of course, the sort of the bell ringer of it all, which is 10,000 cancellation of debt for those making less than 125,000, and up to 20 grand for those who are on Pell Grants.
So, hey, is it something extraordinary or so-so or confusing?
I wouldn't say it's extraordinary. The thing is, these folks are still going to have debt. The real sort of impetus for this is the generation of Americans who we would call millennials, who could be anywhere from sort of 25 up to 42, 43 years old, who have really not been able to partake in the normal things that we would call sort of the American dream. So home ownership, safe transportation, the ability to pay for an education for their children. And so I think the concern there is that these folks are really struggling to partake in that. And then secondly, that has huge economic impacts down the road for folks who, may never own homes and whatnot. So I think that's the real impetus for this. But this doesn't fix, you have to understand, this does not fix the sort of soaring cost of college and the changing landscape of higher education. There's still going to be student loans going on, and in a lot of instances, they're quite effective.
So AOC says that not enough. Is she right? She's right.
I mean, I think that's hard to. I think that's hard to say. This will cancel debt for several million Americans, but still, the worth of a college degree in the United States is still a good 20% higher earnings for folks who graduate. Beyond those who don't go to college. So the student loan program is still very effective. What's really going on is a longer term trend of sort of transition in higher education to different models of operating public universities as institutions amid sort of declining sort of public, state support for higher education. And so a part of these changes that are driving these rising costs are really public universities adapting to that and getting on a footing where they can compete with nonprofit and private sector folks.
What about giving loan but without interest?
That's not how we do things here in America. And I think that in part, this is an effort a little bit to address that, right? Because the federal government is saying that they're going to take up the interest for folks who are not making enough money to pay that, so that they're not stuck in a situation where they're forever paying interest-only payments on things. But I think you have to have some element of interest to get private sector buy-in. Remember, it's the private sector that administer these loans ultimately. And so they're just guaranteed by the federal government. So there has to be some buy-in there for the private sector to be able to do this stuff. So,
who qualifies for this debt forgiveness?
At the 10 grand level, anyone who makes 125K or less would qualify as long as they meet certain conditions. And then if you receive Pell Grants, which is a form of federal grant given to very low income students in the United States, it's possible to get up to $20K of relief.
Now, banks normally are not going to give without interest. But our not-for-profit sector is huge. And they do a whole lot of charitable things. Why a student loan cannot be taken by the not-for-profit sector instead of business?
Well, the thing to understand about the nonprofit sector is they compete on a footing which is a little more uncertain than established financial institutions, right? And so nonprofit sectors depend very often on, either government grants, which sometimes come and sometimes don't come, or they depend on philanthropy, and those aren't stable sources of funding for administering something as large as the student loan program. And so I think, and then on top of that, I think most, for very large programs like this, I think most research would tell you that government or private sector is a little more, it's not really about service delivery, it's more about stability and reliability of the service.
So how are they doing it when not in in recent past, interest rate had been zero?
Right. Well, the thing is, interest rates, that's a separate conversation and probably one to have with an economist, but interest rates are certainly part of the story, right? So early on in the student loan program, where we had Pell Grants were more robust in terms of actual expenses for things. We had much lower rates. And then, of course, over time, rates have drifted upwards towards 6%, I think is the average. And so there are economic reasons for that and sort of the economy of interest rates. And I'll leave that for someone else to talk about, but they've certainly gone up. And part of this too is it's not just an interest rate story, but I was like I was saying, is when you have sort of declining public support for public universities, and these are all policy decisions that originate in publics out there who are voting for things, right? Universities have to adjust and adapt, and some of those changes are more expensive. The other backdrop for this is changing technology, right? It used to be the case we didn't need classrooms that were wired for Wi-Fi and where everyone would have access to a laptop or a computer or something. So those technological expenses are very real. In the early days of higher education, you had one person who was sort of good with computers and they could help a bunch of people. And now we have whole departments for that, for instance. And so I think interest rates is part of the story, certainly, but also you just have the changing landscape for higher education that is both external and happens out there in the sort of the political world, but also internally, organizationally, where these institutions are adjusting to those transitions.
So what is next after President Biden's current announcement? Do you think steps like that will continue to be considered by Republicans and Democrats in future, or what other things need to be done from your perspective to decrease the burden of education?
Well, I think in general, I don't know that we're going to see a period where this broader sort of social and organizational transition is going to abate. This is a process of both the universities and students adapting to an environment where universities compete with nonprofit and private sector providers of instruction. And so, and need to find ways to fund themselves through grants and contracts and things like that. As long as that is the case, we're going to see, we're going to see college expense stay roughly the same. I think one point people are missing about this policy is this is not an act of Congress. It's not legislation. This is an executive order, a president doing something unilaterally. those things are very sort of ephemeral in American politics because each president can issue a different executive order the first day they are in office. So I don't expect to see similar policies or policies like this to continue, at least with specificity to students, right? We might see it for other groups or whatnot, but I think this is a one-shot deal.
Well, thank you so much, Professor Workman, for your time.
It's been my pleasure.
Thank you. Back to you, Samana.
Thank you. That's all from our Chicago studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can find previous episodes and more on our YouTube or Facebook. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Salam and good night.